think you control your desires? Do you believe your choices, your loves, your passions are truly yours? Carl Jung would say no. In fact, he'd argue most of us are being controlled by invisible forces living deep within our own minds. Desire isn't just chemistry. It's not just instinct. It's a language, a message your unconscious is trying to send you, one you rarely understand. How many times have you been drawn to someone wrong for you? How often have you found yourself in situations that defy logic, clash with your values, or contradict what you claim to want? And yet, you wanted it. Maybe later you regretted it. Or maybe you couldn't explain why. Jung put it this way: until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And that fate sometimes has a name, a scent, a touch. It shows up as passion, addiction, obsession. Sometimes it masquerades as love. Other times, it's a desire that keeps you up at night tone you can't explain, one that won't let go. This isn't just about sex. It's about what sex reveals, about the hidden layers of your desire and why they matter more than you think. Get ready to dive into a realm where the body speaks the language of the soul, where desire is just the tip of the iceberg. Because when you understand what's really behind your attractions, you might finally see who's truly in charge. When it comes to psychoanalysis and sexuality, most people think of Freud. The Oedipus complex, repressed instincts, suppressed desires, it's all iconic. But what gets overlooked? Carl Jung disagreed with Freud profoundly. Freud thought everything boiled down to sex, a biological drive, a primal urge. Jung, however, saw sexual desire as one of many ways the unconscious expresses itself. More than that, he believed desire reveals something about who you are or who you're striving to become. For Jung, the unconscious isn't just a storage locker for trauma. It's a creative archetype, a hidden intelligence guiding you toward growth, even if it does so in strange, painful, or contradictory ways. So where does desire fit in? Jung saw sexual desire as a symbolic language. When you're drawn to someone, when you feel lust, passion, or obsession, it might not even be about them. What's really pulling you in could be something they represent, a hidden, suppressed, or forgotten part of you. Something you need to embrace. Take this example. You're a controlled, rational, methodical person. Then, out of nowhere, you fall for someone chaotic, impulsive, free-spirited, maybe even reckless. That person might embody your shadow, the part of you that's been buried but is desperate to live. Desire is the spark. It's your unconscious shouting, "You need this." You need to reconnect with the part of yourself you've left behind. How? Jung didn't see sex as sinful or purely physical. He saw it as a bridge between the conscious and unconscious. A ritual, sometimes blind, sometimes dangerous, but always revealing. He said, "What you most desire may hide what you most fear." So, when you feel that intense, almost irrational pull, maybe it's not just lust. Maybe it's a call. Maybe your unconscious is showing you what's missing in you. Maybe what draws you to others is exactly what you need to become. This is why Jung stressed paying attention to desire without judgment. He didn't say, follow every urge blindly or repress everything. He said, look, listen, the unconscious speaks through symbols, and sex is one of the most powerful symbols there is. This perspective changes everything. Suddenly, the person you're drawn to isn't just a person. They're a mirror reflecting what your conscious mind can't yet see. Have you ever felt like there's someone else inside you? Someone with desires, fears, or feelings that don't quite feel like you. Maybe a softer, more intuitive side. Or a bolder, more aggressive one. Jung called these inner figures Anima and Animus. For him, Every man carries an unconscious image of the feminine, the anima. Every woman carries an unconscious image of the masculine, the animus. But this isn't about gender. It's about psychic principles, about opposing yet complementary forces that live in all of us, regardless of body, identity, or orientation. The anima embodies intuition, emotion, surrender, beauty, and connection to mystery. The animus embodies reason, action, strength, direction, and logic. These figures form over time, shaped by our parents, cultural models, and childhood experiences. They're fueled by what we love and what we fear. Here's the kicker. These inner images deeply influence who we're drawn to. They shape the kind of person who catches our eye. They mold our relationships. Ever wonder why you keep falling for a certain type? Or why you're attracted to people who throw you off balance? Jung would say you're projecting your anima or animus onto them. When a man is captivated by a woman who radiates mystery, beauty, or intensity, he might be seeing his own anima reflected in her. He's not seeing the real woman, but the image living inside him. She becomes a mirror of his soul. The same goes for women who project their animus onto men who seem powerful, stoic, rational, or even unattainable. Projection makes the other person feel magical, but the real magic is what's inside you. The anima and animus are bridges between your conscious mind and the unconscious, between who you think you are and who you could become. The catch? Projections can blind you. You fall for a fantasy. Then, when reality sets in, when the other person isn't who you imagine, a disappointment, drama, or conflict follows. Jung believed maturity means reclaiming these projections, seeing the other person for who they truly are, and, more importantly, recognizing that everything you admired or desired in them lives in you too. This process is called individuation, the journey to becoming a whole human being. For men, it's about integrating the feminine. For women, it's about integrating the masculine. And for those who don't fit neatly into either category, it's about embracing the fluidity of these symbolic principles, knowing the human soul is vast, multifaceted, and ever-evolving. At its core, sexual desire and the relationships it sparks is how the unconscious pushes us to grow. It forces us to face what's missing, to seek balance between opposites. Sex stops being just pleasure. It becomes a ritual of self-discovery, a way to reconnect with the lost parts of yourself. When you see this, relationships stop being just physical encounters. They become encounters between symbols, between psychic forces longing to be seen, loved, and integrated. Have you ever desired something and instantly felt guilty? Or had a thought you judged as unacceptable, immoral, maybe even dangerous? Jung called this inner territory the shadow. The shadow is everything we don't want to see in ourselves. Everything we've learned is wrong, bad, shameful, or forbidden. But what happens when desire is suppressed? Does it vanish? Number, it transforms, and often it hides. Jung warned that the more we repress something, the stronger it grows in the unconscious. The more power it gains. The more it demands to be expressed, and when it can't find a healthy outlet, it leaks out sideways. The shadow isn't just negative traits. It can also hold positive ones: courage, boldness, creativity, sensuality, raw vitality. Many people suppress their sexual desire. Maybe they were taught sex is dirty. Maybe they associate pleasure with shame. Maybe trauma has linked touch, intimacy, or vulnerability to pain. But what isn't lived doesn't die. It hides. And it returns as symptoms, fantasies, compulsions, dreams, or even illness. Unmet desire can turn into anxiety, chronic frustration, sabotaged relationships, or it can erupt as anger, jealousy, or self-destruction. Jung said, "What you resist persists, what you embrace transforms. When you deny your desire, it enslaves you. But when you face it with curiosity and awareness, it can set you free." Here's the nuance. Not every desire should be acted on, but every desire deserves to be understood. Your psyche speaks in symbols. Sometimes, what you want isn't literally the thing. It's what the thing represents. Maybe you're drawn to the forbidden because it connects you to a part of you that's wild, alive, untamed. Maybe you crave submission not because you want to be controlled, but because you're desperate for rest. Maybe you seek dominance out of cruelty, but because you feel voiceless in your life. Desire is the soul's language, crying out for balance. But society teaches us to silence desire, to control it, to treat it like an enemy. And the more you fight it, the more it slips through the cracks of your life. Jung proposed a different approach. Don't fight the shadow. Talk to it. Name your desires. Listen to what they're trying to tell you. What are they revealing about you? This doesn't mean acting recklessly or hurting others. It means taking responsibility for yourself. It means acknowledging the vibrant, contradictory, wounded, and beautiful world pulsing inside you. The more you know your shadow, the less it controls you. The more you integrate your desire, the freer you become. In the end, sexual desire is just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath it lies the real question. What's your relationship with who you truly are? Sex and spirituality. How often do you see those words together, without tension? Most religious traditions separate the body from the soul, as if pleasure is a barrier to transcendence, as if desire threatens enlightenment. But Carl Jung saw something different. He believed the sexual impulse wasn't a flaw of nature. It was a call from the soul. Yes, sex can be purely physical, but it can also be a gateway to the sacred. In moments of ecstasy, surrender, or true connection with another, you escape the mind. You slip past the ego. You step outside time. For a fleeting moment, you touch something beyond yourself. Jung saw the sexual instinct as one of the greatest energies of the human psyche. When refined through what he called sublimation, it transforms into creativity, art, or spiritual insight. Desire stops being just physical. It becomes symbolic. Ever notice how sexual energy and creative energy come from the same place? Think about when you're in love, or inspired, or fully immersed in something you adore. Your body hums. Your mind expands. Your soul lights up. That's no coincidence. It's life force in motion. The same energy that creates life can also create awareness. Jung saw sex as part of individuation, the journey to becoming your true self. That journey runs through the body, through desire, through connection with others. In intimacy, you reveal yourself. In touch, you discover yourself. In desire, you realize you're both human and divine. But this takes courage. Courage to dive deep, to drop the performance, to let go of control. In sacred sex, there's no actor, no right or wrong. There's only presence, surrender, awareness. And awareness is what the soul craves. This is why ancient traditions like Tantra have long seen sex as a spiritual path. The body is a temple. Pleasure is a silent prayer. But let's be clear, spiritualizing sex doesn't mean denying the instinct. It's not about turning everything into poetry and ignoring that we're flesh and blood. It's about honoring the instinct, recognizing that the urge to connect with someone is also the urge to create, to love, to transform the world. When you engage with desire consciously, you tap into your creative power, your soul, your connection to the divine, whatever name you give it. Jung didn't separate the sacred from the instinctual. He united them. For him, the true spiritual path isn't about denying who you are. It's about integrating all that you are. Your desire, your body, your shadow. In the end, sex can be just an act. Or it can be a mirror, a ritual, a portal. It depends on how you choose to live it, and how much soul you bring to the encounter. What is the erotic? It's not just about sex. The erotic is bigger, deeper, more expansive. Poet and activist Audre Lorde called the erotic a force of the soul, a vibrant energy pulsing within us, yearning to live, feel, touch, and transform. Jung, in his own way, pointed to the same truth. For him, the erotic is the soul's call for wholeness. You know that moment when something or someone draws you in, inexplicably? It's not just physical. It's like something inside you is being pulled to the surface. Something dormant, awakened. That's what desire does. It forces you to look inward. No wonder so much of our deepest pain comes from love, desire, or intimacy. That's where our wounds surface, where our complexes speak, where the shadow dances with full force. But here's the key. What surfaces can be healed? What's revealed can be transformed. When you embrace the erotic as more than physical, it becomes a tool for healing. It uncovers unmet needs, traumas, fears of abandonment, your hunger to be seen, accepted, touched truly. Jung believed much of our psychic suffering stems from repressing the erotic, from living in a world where desire is silenced, distorted, or suffocated. When that energy gets trapped, it sickens the soul. Healing, then, starts here, with reclaiming desire, with reconnecting to the body, with claiming the right to feel without guilt, shame, or masks. Ever notice how hard it is to truly open up to someone? It's not just fear of them, it's fear of yourself. Intimacy exposes everything. Your insecurities, your need for control, your search for validation, your struggle to trust. But in that fragile space, healing happens. Because there, you can stop performing. You can show up. You can be seen. The erotic is where the soul dares to be whole. And here's the fascinating part. Sometimes, what turns you on, what excites you, makes no logical sense. But it makes symbolic sense. You fall for someone who rejects you. Maybe your soul is trying to replay or heal an old wound. You chase the unattainable. Maybe you're unconsciously reaching for something transcendent. Desire isn't always rational, but it's always revealing. It speaks the soul's language, and it can guide you towards self-discovery. When you stop fighting what you feel and start listening to what you feel, desire becomes a compass, a teacher, a medicine. Sex stops being just an act. It becomes a journey of healing, of reclamation, of reconnecting with your deepest essence. Jung invites us to face desire without fear, without moralism, without neurosis, because what transforms us isn't what we suppress. It's what we dare to integrate. Desire is one of the most powerful bridges between who we are and who we can become. Why do we love? Why do we crave the other so intensely? Why this thirst for connection, for merging, for intimacy? Jung would say, because in seeking the other, we're seeking ourselves. That's what makes love so captivating and so perilous. When we fall in love, we project onto the other parts of ourselves we can't see. Our longings, our fears, our wounds, and above all, our untapped potential. Ever been enchanted by someone who felt magical, untouchable, almost divine? Maybe you were seeing your own self reflected in that mirror. Jungian psychology calls this projection. You don't see the other as they are. You see what your soul needs them to be. The person draws you in, but deep down, what's drawing you is what's missing in you. This is the profound game of relationships. The search for the other reveals the gaps within us, but it also shows what we're capable of becoming. Jung said, "Meeting the soul in another is overwhelming, but it's only complete when we turn that soul back toward ourselves." In other words, the other is a doorway, but the journey is inward. Here's the irony. The more we idealize someone, the less we see them for who they are, and the further we drift from ourselves. That's why relationships frustrate us. The other can't live up to our projections. They're not our savior, not our lost mother, not our absent father, not the magic cure for our emptiness. When that illusion crumbles, we either grow or we run. But there's a third path: integration. Recognizing that what you projected onto the other exists in you: the beauty, the strength, the tenderness, the brilliance, the potential. The other simply showed you what you'd forgotten you were. Maybe the greatest lesson of any relationship is this: it's not about the other completing you, it's about the other revealing you. This applies beyond romantic love. It's true for friendships, fleeting passions, even rivalries. Every connection carries a symbolic weight. Every encounter unveils something hidden. The more aware you become, the more your relationships turn into mirrors. Mirrors of your light and your shadow. You get annoyed by someone who challenges you. Maybe you're avoiding something you need to hear. You're drawn to emotionally unavailable people. Maybe you're still scared to open up. You feel small around someone. Maybe you're projecting your own power onto them. This is where relationships become a path, not to comfort, but to truth. Love, desire, intimacy, they aren't spiritual distractions. They're tools for individuation. They force you out of your ego. They show you you're not the center. But they also teach you the other isn't your salvation. You're both part of a process, a symbolic dance, a journey that can lead you both to greater wholeness if you're brave enough to look, brave enough to see the other as they are, and braver still to see yourself. Desire isn't just about wanting someone. It's about wanting to become who you're meant to be. Sometimes the other is just there to remind you of that. Sex, a word that still startles, that sparks shy smiles, or unease, or judgment, but also a word that carries power, life, desire, transformation. For Carl Jung, sex was never just biology, never just physical pleasure or reproduction. Sex, for Jung, was symbol, ritual, a sacred encounter with mystery. When two bodies meet, two souls draw near, two shadows dance, two unconscious minds merge like rivers, forgetting their names as they reach the sea. In that moment, the ego steps back, reason falls silent, and something ancient, something profound, takes over. That something is the collective unconscious. It's the archetype of masculine and feminine in motion. It's Eros awakening Psyche. It's Shiva dancing with Shakti. It's myth unfolding in the bodies of two ordinary people. But do we notice? Or do we trivialize the most sacred act in the world? Because we're afraid of what it reveals? Sex confronts us. It strips away control. It lays bare our rawest vulnerabilities. It throws us back to childhood, to unresolved needs, to our most primal fears. But it can also heal us, free us, reconnect us to what we've lost: wholeness. At the peak of pleasure, there's no ego, no time, no separation, just presence, surrender, union. It's like dying for a moment and being reborn with a little more soul, Maybe that's why sex scares us, because it reminds us of the divine and the animal. Jung knew, where opposites clash, creation is born. Sex is exactly that, the tension between instinct and spirit, between flesh and symbol, between desire and awareness. When we ignore the symbolic side of sex, it becomes addiction, escape, or power play. But when we see it as a portal, it becomes alchemy. Jung didn't want us to suppress desire. He wanted us to integrate it, to look it in the eye and ask, "What are you trying to teach me about myself?" Because desire doesn't lie. It points to parts of us that haven't yet emerged, to voids that need filling not by someone else, but by inner integration. Maybe sex isn't the goal. Maybe it's a means to remember who we are. Fragments of light longing to reunite, separated parts yearning for unity. When lived consciously, sex becomes meditation, a mirror, a rebirth. It's the self calling out, whispering, "Stop running from yourself. What you seek in another's body has always been within you." When we grasp this, sex stops being taboo. It becomes a path through shadow, yes, but also through light, through pain at times, but also through transcendence. As Jung said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there's a reaction, both are transformed. Maybe that's what sex is. Transformation. From the self you were to the self you can become. From unconscious desire to awakened awareness. From raw instinct to embodied sacredness. So, are you ready to step through that portal? If this dive into the psyche stirred something in you, don't brush it off. Like, share, and subscribe to keep exploring the unconscious. And remember, what you avoid might be exactly what needs to be seen.